Welcome to Common Unity, the podcast that unveils the unique life stories shaping the individuals of today.
Often, it's scary, right? When you're going to start a business, and I've had a few people be like, how do you just take the leap?
When you play to your strengths, you experience ease, excellence, and enjoyment.
Yeah, right time, right place, but you put yourself in that place. That luck never happened without all the work that led to you being in that place at that time.
Who cares how people look at them? Whatever keeps you ticking, until you get to the next thing and figure it out.
Join us as we unravel the triumphs, challenges, and pivotal moments that have crafted the past of our guests. I'm Jason Fox.
And I'm Nick Fennell.
Let's get into the show.
I'm thinking about it's that thing that pushes you over the edge, right? That makes you either change because you need to or you want to. Usually you don't want to because, I asked you, hey, do you want to come and see what it's like as I'm coaching so we could talk about it?
It was very strange for me, very different. I've never done anything like it. Really good. And I didn't even know that stuff was there. Totally unexpected.
Yeah.
So, I can recommend.
All right, welcome back to Common Unity. I was scrolling the internet and everyone knows that I pushed Movember pretty hard. I'm about men's mental health and stuff, and I saw this guy, Kenrick Smith, and he's doing some pretty cool stuff into the ice bath and working one-on-one with men in their mindset. So I said, let's get this guy on the podcast, and here he is.
Cool. Amazing.
Welcome.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you for having me. It's a nice setup. Nice chairs. They feel delicious.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Basic. We've made ourselves at home down here.
It's cool. It's nice.
Yeah. So we usually start out the podcast with just a little bit of a background on what you've done in life that sort of led you to where you are today. That's the overarching theme.
Cool.
So you can start that journey wherever you like.
A lot. As you'll find out, I've got ADHD, so I'm kind of I look around the world for shiny things. So I've done a lot of things.
Yep.
Grew up in the Hawke's Bay on a hill country farm, and then moved to Hamilton for most of my schooling, then back to Hawke's Bay, when trained as a chef, and did that for maybe 2 years. Generally, my career looks like every 2 years. My CV looks awkward. I just have gaps. I don't have a CV anymore. Yep. Worked as a chef, and then I went and worked in a church and studied at a theology school, and then, from there, managed restaurants, and then went overseas. And then I've been a photographer just before COVID. Well, no, COVID kind of kicked me out of it. But I was a professional wedding and commercial photographer.
Yep.
Doing that for about 7 or 8 years. That was cool.
Yep.
And then COVID hit, and I was done anyway. I had literally had a meeting with my wife, and I said, "Hey, I want out. I'm done." And she's like, "Okay, you're the income. This is awkward." Yeah. And I said, "I'm going to take a month off. I'm going to do what I want. I want to do some gaming or do what I want." Okay, that's cool. A week in, the whole country joined me on my holiday. And I was on lockdown, so I was like, yeah, sweet, I'm sorted.
Heaps of people to play with on games.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was awesome.
You're the boys.
And then from there, I went and got a job in kiwi fruit.
Oh, yeah.
Weirdly, I just needed a job, and I knew by then that moving my body and being outside was good for my mental health. Wasn't doing well. And rubbish job, terrible. Walking up and down the vines, just like bottom of the pecking order.
Crouching because you're so low.
Oh yeah, well when it got to picking season, I was I lasted about 2 weeks before I was like, I'm out. I'm too tall. I'm strong enough, but I'm too tall. But the kiwi fruit is really cool because I hated the job, but I could have 8 hours a day to listen to podcasts. And it's cool being on a podcast because the amount that I listen to and the growth that I do, and it was offline data way that he got to Pookie. Once a month or once every week, I'd download, right, what do I want to attack in my life today? Okay, attachment theory, loneliness, blah, 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 blah. Download, and then I'd just be in the middle of the kiwi fruit rows just having a cry. One of the mates is like, "You right?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not all right." She'd walk over, give me a hug. "You okay now?" "Yeah, I'm good." And I put my Brene Brown book on, and it's funny, it was a horrible time in my life, driving a lot, young kids, going through marriage, nearly break up, but I look back at it now and I'm like, that was the time I really started to go down the rabbit hole of growing and changing. And I'd probably do it again if I had the chance again. I'd be like, yeah. Or maybe I'd just listen to a lot of podcasts myself. So, it was cool. So you get distracted a lot.
So you were in a cycle of a job every 2 years.
Pretty much. I just got bored. My ADHD was undiagnosed. So I'm 38 now. 37, I got diagnosed. Not a surprise to me or any of my friends now, but then okay, maybe. I was doing the Mount Everest challenge, started getting into running, trail running, and doing the Mount Everest challenge up and down every 2 days. every 2 days I'd go. Sorry, I'll start again. Every 2 days I'd go and I'd run up the mount twice, and I'd jump in the ocean. It's in April, right? So it's pretty cold. So I was sky high dopamine. I was living my best life, and I was thriving at work. Kid was about to be born, second kid, and then he was born March. So I had to hustle it. I did it in like 36 days, 38 times up. And then he was born the next day. And then I just went into this dark, deep hole, and I was rubbish at work, and I was depressed. I'm like, what the heck's going on? I now know that that's what happens with adult ADHD diagnosis, because you're doing, life's okay until something just pushes you over the edge. It was that second kid, and I was doing all this exercise. I was loving life. I was managing my ADHD with exercise and fatigue, which, every 2 days, okay, I need to go for another run. And then life got a bit too hard, and I'm like, why do I suck at life so much? So I went to the doctor, and he's like, oh yeah, maybe you're pretty high functioning. You got a job and a marriage. And then, psychologist and blah, blah, blah. And now they give me pills, and it's great. Government-sponsored stimulants.
Yeah, I mean, you can't show up for anyone in the world if you haven't shown up for yourself first, right?
Exactly.
So you've gone from working out, having epic swims and all the rest of it, which is filling your own bucket, and then all of a sudden you've emptied your bucket, and you can't fill it, and you're trying to pour your empty bucket.
And I couldn't go for a run in the morning because it was like half asleep, and but that was last. It must have been June. I don't know in what year, but since then Med's going great, and I'm running my own business, which I was like thought I'd never do again, because having ADHD is not really good when you're like, work or veggie garden. Yeah, veggie garden. And you're like, 250 square meters of veggie garden, but my business is failing. What's going on?
It's a good sized veggie garden.
It was hearty. Yeah, we were living in Caddy, and I was going to take over the world with organic vegetables. I did for a while. So. Man. And then from that, then we're in COVID. We're in lockdown, and we're living in Caddy, and we took the dog to the beach, and my wife took the dog. We had this crazy hunting dog, a Whistler. I wouldn't recommend it if anyone's just don't do it. Don't do it. But wife took Captain the dog down the beach. I had now 1.5-year-old, and I started just like ADHD, just fidgeting in the sand. I drew a little sun, and she went right to the middle. I was like, what is this? And she was happy. I was like, okay. Wife comes back. Hey, you look real chill. What's going on? Oh, Ivy's been playing with this, and I've been doing a drawing. She's like, that's weird, okay. 2 days later, I was like, can we go back to the beach? She's like, yeah, okay. Wasn't really a fan, right? And then I did another drawing, and I went to the middle. I was like, free childcare, yes. And then forgot all about it. And then second lockdown, we're living in Papamoa, and I was like, again, no job, no friends, too much alcohol, too many bags of chips. I know we all know what it's like. And my mental space just started plummeting, and I was like, what did I do last time? I went to the beach. So I used my ADHD superpowers by this stage, and I researched the heck out of mandalas, right? I'd seen like a mandala tattoo, kind of symmetrical pattern, and I was like, I reckon I could draw that on the sand. So I went hard and I researched it, went to the beach, started drawing these big mandalas. And that's where I'm at now. I'm a professional sand artist. Last year, quit my job as an alternative education. Oh yeah, there you go. There's another one. Alternative education. So I was teaching kids, high school kids, who were kind of struggling at school. Funnily enough, half of them probably had ADHD. I was teaching them food manufacturing skills to try and get them their credits so they could get through class. And that was really cool. Enjoyed that. Yeah. But I don't really like working for someone, it seems. I like to kind of do my own thing. So I started this business where I do large-scale drawings on the sand. I called it Rake Healing because I needed a name, and I saw Reiki Healing, and I was like, I'd take the piss out of that. And so I called it Rake Healing because I use a rake, and the process for me has been really healing. Okay. So as part of that, I started doing a little bit of mindfulness at the start, just to kind of calm my own brain, because otherwise you go down there and you're hustling, okay, I'm going to do this design, I'm going to fly the drone and do all this stuff. So I started to like, okay, how can I slow myself down? So I did this, and then my mum started liking on Facebook, my auntie, and then like I did a drawing September 2021. I did a big mandala around the base track of the mount. Sorry, I got a burp. Just for all of us while you're burping, what's a mandala? A mandala, yeah, good. A mandala is a symmetrical pattern. I don't know if I have one on here. It's a symmetrical pattern in the sand, or no, it's anywhere. So officially, it's a top-down drawing of the Buddhist temple, but they look quite different to all the ones you see on the Brazilian tourist at the mount. So it's a symmetrical pattern with patterns and Yeah.
All right, cool.
But I just started drawing on the beach for my own sanity because you got nothing else to do in lockdown. I didn't want to drink too much, and I was trying to work out. And I started doing this, and then people started loving it. And I did this big one in September 2021, and it got on the paper, and it got Facebook, and it was like going crazy. And I was like, I guess I'll start an Instagram, and that blew up. And then I was like, this mindfulness stuff that I've kind of started doing for myself, I think a lot of other people would benefit from it. So I kind of made up a class. It's a 2-hour class where I teach you mindfulness, meditation, and then I teach you how to do the sand art. And I've been doing that for the last year and paid the mortgage, and it's awesome.
Okay.
So that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And I also do commissions. So I used my sparkly brain to figure out a way that I could do really detailed logos down to the centimetre on the sand. And I won't tell you how to do it because I'm about the only one that knows how to do it. I think in the world. There might be 1 or 2 people. It's pretty crazy. So, yeah.
Kenrick and I have known each other for a while, and I actually had a message exchange with him with a whole bunch of different ideas as to how he did his sand art, because it is so ridiculously accurate.
Yeah.
And, none of my ideas were on the money.
They might have been, but I can neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah, there we go.
You should go back. I knew I got under your skin with that one. You were like, what about this? You got the same. Your brain works quite similar to mine.
I reckon you and I start shovel healing.
Yeah.
Hey, do it, man.
Shovel healing.
Hey, man, you go and dig a big hole. You'll feel healed.
And on that, guys, it's also super important to us that this gets out to more people. So if you can, and you got some value from it, please share it on your social media. Tag your friends in it, send it to someone that you think may get some value from it.
So that if we can get on good guests and ask them great questions, then hopefully everyone that's listening gets some value out of it, and we can keep bringing on better guests with the experiences that you need help with. Imagine.
I think that was a very roundabout way of saying now I'm a professional sand artist.
Yeah.
There's like not many people in the world that do this.
Yeah.
I've just kind of made it up, and there's a few people overseas in England doing it, running classes and stuff. But yeah, I've combined the mindfulness, kind of ramping that up, and I do these commissions. I knew I'd get paid if I could do logos, and I was like, okay, I can figure this out. Surely, I've got ADHD and the internet. Why not? And I figured it out, and I had a few fails, but yeah, it's really cool.
So who's your clients? Is it like TCC for the boats that are leaving the harbour and stuff like that?
Yeah, so last year was my first year in business, but did a commission for Ed Sheeran. So I was having my lunch one day, and my wife's sitting across the table at home, and I get this call, and I get telemarketers, like, hello, sir, is your internet good, Yeah. And I get pretty wild. I either just put them onto my 4-year-old. Hey, Ivy, it's for you. And then they're like, blah, blah, blah. I get this call, and random number. I was like, oh, here we go. Oh, hi, Kenrick, it's Jim here. And I'm like, okay. And he's from Warner Music. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like waving to my wife across the room. And I'm writing with my left hand, Warner Music Commission. And he said, we've got
Warner Brothers, it's too early for your cartoons.
Yeah. And he said, hey, we've got an international artist who's doing an album release, and we want to do 1 track set to music to some of the art from the album. I didn't know who it was, but I knew what date it came out, which was like May 6th or something. So I figured it out. It was Dua Lipa or Ed Sheeran or somebody else. And I was like, maybe Ed Sheeran. And so they did an international track release, and all the kind of territories, UK, Belgium, Germany, all had a track. And so New Zealand got Sycamore from his recent album Subtract. So they gave me some of the album art, and then I turned that into like my interpretation of that. And it's like 30 meters high on Mount Maunganui Beach, like 6 a.m. at sunrise. So it's pretty cool.
So what, you throw a drone up and just go to work, do you? And it's like the whole process, like a time lapse.
Yeah. So I record it. And obviously they had a videographer as well, which is really cool. So they did an awesome job with the video. But when I'm doing it myself, I've got a GoPro and my phone and tripod and a drone. So okay. It's been a lot of learning in a year, but my brain likes that kind of stuff, loves challenge. I'm like, right, how can I do this? So
there's a lot of Ed Sheeran fans out there. Like, where would they find that if they want to see it?
If you type Ed Sheeran NZ Sand Art on YouTube, or else if you go to my YouTube Rake Healing, there's a video out there.
There's a cool video.
And on my Instagram. So
well, I'll be doing it.
Yeah.
Don't know about you listeners, but I'll be doing it.
Pull it up now. It's like 15 seconds. So I do that. And then this year I've added coaching. for guys. So as part of my journey, I felt really stuck for a long time, and I wanted to help other people kind of through podcasts and learning and having some coaching and counseling myself. I realized that guys need tools. They need skills to get out from where they are. We've got a big problem of drinking in New Zealand and drugs and everything else that we're trying to do to try and fix ourselves or numb ourselves. And so I've learned some really cool tools that are really practical and not hippie and not woo-woo, not too woo-woo, depends. And I really want to help just everyday guys just be better, be the best version of themselves, so that they can be better husbands and better dads and just thrive, not be depressed, not be drinking.
So for the listeners, a few of them know I'm doing 75 hard at the moment, and I'm a big piss drinker, right? Like I was saying, I've said it a few times today to people. So last weekend we did a car tour. I go on car tours with 50 odd cars sort of thing. We went up to Leadfoot Ranch, had our cars. Generally I'm the first one there, so I make sure I drive the fastest so I can be in the bar the first, have a few beers with all the people that I've met, because the extrovert in me is like, oh, new friends.
Yeah, nice.
Gather them up, get them in one place, let's talk all night. And then at the end of it, I'm the last one there too. All right, we've got to go driving in the morning. Let's go, guys. Call it a day. But somewhere during that time, my wife's gone, I'm tired, I'm going back to bed,
Yeah, nice.
This time, doing all that, being sober, I found that hardly anyone on the tour was drinking. I'm not saying, like, it was a different group of people.
Yeah.
It wasn't me why they weren't drinking, but they weren't so much. But then straight away, we've still got to do another workout, so we'd go for a walk down the beach.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Oh, there's a pool at the complex. Should we have a swim? So we're in the pool,
Cool.
and then the spa till like 9:30. Then we go and read our 10 pages and off to bed.
Nice.
Wake up feeling fresh as. And I was like, what a different holiday. Like, it's been great for the relationship.
That was the experience for you.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
Yeah,
Absolutely loving it. Claire, obviously weight's falling off. Like,
you don't look like you drink a lot.
Nah, well, I've lost 6 kgs in 3.5 weeks.
Jeez.
It's coming off.
Yeah, cool.
It's good, all those years of damage, rewinding.
Yeah. Nice.
But those things, I'm not waking up tired, so you don't have, I have to follow a diet anyway as part of it, but you're eating better food and your energy's there. You're reacting the circumstances better.
Totally.
We had a house under contract and we got pushed out on it, and that would have been like, oh, fuck, what's happened to me? Sit down a bit. You wouldn't believe it, guys. Oh, our dream house just fell over. I was like, oh, wasn't meant to be. Just carry on with life.
Andrew Huberman's got some good, he's got a really challenging podcast on alcohol. He talks about the day after you drink, your cortisol release is more than if you hadn't drunk.
Yeah.
So you drink because you're stressed, and then you get a higher cortisol release. So then you drink more, round and round and round.
And you'd probably compound that with caffeine the next morning, which isn't good for anxiety and stuff.
You don't drink coffee? I talked to the barista.
No, I don't drink coffee.
Interesting. No. You're a saint, pretty much.
No, I'm not. No.
Not yet.
I'd have an energy drink and stuff at times, probably more frequently than I should. So I'm still definitely getting the caffeine. But
nice. I pound the coffee.
Yeah, I wish I drank coffee. I just can't stand it.
Oh, really?
But
interesting.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is also not good for anxiety and stuff. Caffeine, right? And people are like, oh man, what a day, and like shaking at their desk.
I'm so stressed out. Stop drinking coffee, man.
Yeah, I can't stop fidgeting. So all those things compound.
Yeah.
So everything you're saying makes a lot of sense to me because it's been a part of my journey as well.
How were the chats when you were sober?
But boring.
No, it's good. I like it.
Well, you're not there. What we found was the places we all had dinner and stuff were loud. So it was actually just hard to hear who you're sitting there talking to. Whereas I think when you're drinking, your volume comes up.
When you're wasted, you're yelling.
Yeah, everyone else in the bar hears you, but you can hear each other fine.
Yeah.
Whereas it's just like, it's a bit loud, eh? Should we head off? But no, the chats were good.
It was a thing that I came up against when I read something that said, what are you numbing from? And what are you using to numb? And I was like, I'm not numbing from anything. And I had a hard day, and I was like, I'm going to buy a box of beers on the way home just so I can have a beer at the beach before I get home. And I was like, what am I numbing from? And then I thought, but I can't hang out with those guys because the chat's going to be rubbish. And there's like ball dropped, and I was like, maybe don't hang out with them if the chat's shit.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're not the problem. Maybe the chat's in, so circle. I just stopped texting those guys, and I'm like, I actually quite enjoy having, like intelligent conversation. But as people get drunk around you, they go like this, and have you seen the rugby? And you're like, can we talk about something of substance? Or you just go to bed.
Yeah.
You know, I realized I'd rather go for a run in the morning than be hungover and feel like crap until midday and then kind of have another coffee and then come online at 7 p.m. I was like, I'd rather get up and run sunrise by myself. And I'm like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah, so I would say the chats that I generally have aren't so much that, because I have a very good circle of people around me.
Yeah.
And as being business coaches ourselves and stuff like that, generally wherever we're sitting, it's business related or social media and stuff like that.
And you have good chats.
Happens to be a beer around us.
Yeah.
And that's how this podcast was born. Like this podcast was born from the fact that I sit down and have pretty good chats with people over a beer most of the time. So I might as well get it on air for other people to share this.
Yeah, cool. Awesome.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. If the only reason you want to hang out with someone is because you're having a beer and that's what makes them interesting, probably the wrong group of people.
Yeah, or you have to have a beer to hang out with them.
Yeah.
You're like, there's a lot of people in the world, or
yeah.
You know. Also, I got 2 kids. I'm tired. I'm knackered.
I'm just sitting on my Facebook. I know 1,000 people on Facebook. There's 8 billion. Could I find someone else to chat to?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, possibly.
Ah, cool.
And so when you had your second kid, what's the age gap? I'm quite intrigued.
Ivy's 5,
Yeah.
and Otto's nearly 2.
Okay.
So we had a bit of a gap in between there. I'm happy to share about that. So it's part of my journey. It was before lockdown. So when Ivy was 12 months, I kind of waited for things to get better in the marriage, waited for things to get better, and they didn't. And I was like, okay, we'll go. 12 months is a great arbitrary line in the sand to have a big, deep and meaningful chat. So we're going for a walk in the bush. We used to live up Caddy on the bush line. So we go for a walk in the bush kind of as our hangout. And I said to my wife, I said, I wouldn't recommend this, by the way, but I said, hey, if things don't change in our relationship, I'm out. And a big, hard, full stop at the end, ultimatum doesn't work very well. Got her attention. Shit hit the fan pretty hard. And then we went to lockdown. So we had a lot of counselling, which was really cool.
Yeah.
It helped us. So we had probably, 20 sessions of counselling. My mate's like, isn't that expensive? I'm like, it's better than half of everything we own, if you've got a house and a car.
Yeah.
And we learnt heaps about communication. And I learnt personally about taking personal responsibility. There was a lot of stuff that I was blaming my wife for around my own happiness and my own contentment. I wasn't happy, I wasn't content, and I thought that was kind of her job to do that, or we're supposed to do that together, blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't good. I wasn't good in me.
Yeah.
And so that was when around that time we started, I was now working in Kiwifruit, and then I was just hitting the podcasts and the books and just digging into all the communication and marriage and everything. Had a bit of counselling myself, all those sessions with us, communication, and we got there. It was a pretty rough couple of years, but yeah.
And what were some of the biggest takeaways from the podcast? What do you think were the biggest things that steered you? Or what were some of the first things that steered you? So you're in a dark place, you're not having a good time.
It's a great question.
And then you heard a podcast about neuroplasticity, or what was it about?
Yeah. It was good leading. You foreshadowing.
I was staring into something he knows about.
No. I've had a coaching session. I've had a coaching session for everyone with Kenrick. So we've actually yarned quite a bit. And he's one of the most knowledgeable people that I've spoken to about that kind of stuff. So I know he has a deeper understanding that some people might want to dive into, totally. So they can understand how they could start their journey. Yeah.
No, definitely. I guess I'm thinking about it's that thing that pushes you over the edge, right? That makes you either change because you need to or you want to. Usually you don't want to because, I think there was a couple things. So I was talking to the guys at a retreat recently, and I said 2 things that fell into place for me were gratitudes. My wife is always going on about it. I'm saying, I'm not happy, blah, blah, blah. She said, do some gratitudes. I'm like, why would I bloody do that? It seems like a whole lot of bullshit. A whole lot of, you can swear, right? A whole lot of bullshit for what? For nothing. I'm like, I'm going to have to do that shit for the rest of my life. And then I was listening to a podcast, and it was talking about neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the idea that your brain can literally rewire itself. Sorry, microphone. I'll start again. Neuroplasticity is the idea that your brain can literally rewire itself at any age. And then the penny dropped for me when I was like, okay, so gratitude. If I focus on the positive, that will actually rewire my brain, and then it'll start to be better. And around the same time, I was talking to a mate, and he told me about when he was 16, 17, he wrote a list of affirmations, and these were they were digging into stuff that he didn't like about himself. And they were like a direct correlation between, okay, I have self-image issues. I'm going to do an affirmation about I'm awesome, whatever it was for him. And so I did the same, and I wrote them down, and I had it on my phone. I did a nice little thing on Canva with a sunset. It was sick. and some cool shadowing, you know. And every morning on my drive to Te Puke, I would put it up on my, magnet holder thing, and I would read through these affirmations. In the first, I don't know, month, it just sounded like bullshit. And I'm like, because they were pretty out there, right?
Yeah.
And I should find them because they're well worth it.
Because it sounds like even me listening to this now, like affirmations are quite a hard thing if you're having to rep them at the very start of things that you don't quite agree with, and you're just trying to get enough repetitions in until you agree.
Super weird, right?
Yeah, that sounds hard.
So it's like there's this line, so I'll read you the affirmation, and then I'll tell you what was going on in my life at the point, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit vulnerable, but I'm fit and active, excited about life. So I was overweight. When I took like 105. I'm a tall guy, but I'm probably 92 now, but I run a lot. So, but I was like, hey?
I've hit 105. I've been there.
Yeah.
Me too.
It's funny, I haven't lost any weight because I'm like, my legs are massive because I'm training for an ultra, but I was unfit. I wasn't moving my body at all. And I was definitely not excited about life. So when I was reading this to myself, it was like a major push, right? So this is like getting into the woo-woo. This is getting into like the manifestation, I'm going to tell myself that this is true when I'm not there. Funnily enough, a couple of years ago, I was hanging out with a mate again, and I said, oh, you told me to do affirmations, eh? And I read them, and every single one of them was bang on. I am kind, open-minded, and fun to be around. I was depressed, I had no mates, and I was a wanker. I didn't want to hang out with me, so no one else would either. I have incredible friends. My best mate was going through a breakup. My other mate just had a kid, so he was out for the count. So my two mates that I'd call on the way to work just to survive, they were out for the count. And I was like in this deep, dark hole of loneliness. My job is epic and I love it. I had a job in kiwi fruit getting paid minimum wage because there was no overseas workers, so they just needed a crew. And I was literally just like driving an hour to walk up and down things and go home to my 1.5-year-old. I love working with people every day to make a difference. I was chopping kiwi fruit, making money for someone in Te Puke. Jasmine is awesome. We have a great marriage. I was staying at another house at this point for like a week or two, and our marriage was like, question mark. We have incredible sex. We're best friends. We're having rubbish or no sex. And we were actually pretty good friends looking back. But I tell you all this because this was such a jump. This was like over there, right?
It's like how I'm dressed, black and white.
Yeah. Whereas now, if I look at that, I'm fit and active, excited about life. I'm training for my second ultra. I'm genuinely like pumped about like being here and just like meeting awesome people. Yeah. I like who I am now. This is a couple years on now. This is 2020. My job now, I get to go outside and draw amazing stuff on the beach. For epic commissions. I teach mindfulness for a living. I meet with like guys like yourself and just like help them dig into their big hard stuff. It's like, what the heck? Like I've got shivers now.
Yeah.
So the way an affirmation works is, or an intention or anything, it's you telling your brain where you want to be. After a while, you start looking for that, right? Yeah. It's like when you buy a Corolla. You've never had a Corolla in your life and you buy one. Then you see all the Corollas in town.
Yeah. Your RAS system, reticular activating system.
There you go. See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that's what it is. Your reticular activating system is part in your brain that like everything's happening in life, but it's what's important. Like a bird just flew in, but actually it's important that I answer this phone. So your brain goes to the thing that's most important.
Okay.
So everything that's happening in your life, it just filters through. So a lot of that stuff...
That makes sense.
A lot of that stuff isn't there as part of your life. Like the bird flying into your building doesn't matter two shits if the building's on fire.
Yeah, you need to get out, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So your body,
cool.
so it's keeping you alive or whatever. So again, you buy the car, it's the same thing. That's why when we tell people to write goals, write them as if you've already achieved them.
Yeah.
Which is the same as your affirmation. I think what it does, the opportunities are always there, but if you're closed off to them, you don't see them.
Yeah, 100%.
But as soon as your mind's open to it, because you're writing your goal, someone starts talking to you, you're like, this might be it. I might take action on that, and then bang,
and you're more open to
there.
stuff. Yeah. You're more open to like, oh yeah, I'd love to do that, instead of like, oh nah, I'm too scared. So the idea of gratitudes or positive thinking combined with neuroplasticity, it's no good if your brain's not going to change. Otherwise, you have to do this awkward stuff every day.
Yeah.
But then I forgot about this for like 2 years, and then I'm like, whoa, I'm living the life that I like was trying to project, and I'm like, this hippie shit is real. Like what? So yeah, how did we get onto that? Neuroplasticity. Yeah, the idea that you can change your brain, that you don't have to be the sad sack of shit that you were, I think is incredible, and that's talking from my own experience. Yeah, I had something the other day. I was listening to a book about, there's a podcast on a book. The book's called 10x is better than 2x. Epic book. And he said, so often we are, what is it? Not controlled. What's the wrong word? We are...
Like autopilot.
Subconsciously led.
Yeah, so like we look at our life from the past, okay? This is my trauma and this is all the shitty things I've done and blah, blah, blah. And that determines our present. But if you actually look at the future and go, man, in 10 years, what am I going to be doing? The kids are going to be this old. I'm going to be charging. This is what I'm going to be doing. And then you come back to now. Okay, I need to change this now to be there, right? And I was like mowing the lawns. It's like 10 minutes into the podcast. So I like paused the podcast and just stood there with the lawnmower going like, whoa, like I've been filtering my whole life through all my BS.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not going to help me. Like, that's not going to like get me charging and going forward. So, yeah.
One thing I was writing about the other day, I call it past maths, like past mathematics. And so you can go back into your memories and then reframe things in a different way so that you can add up your past so that it feels better now.
Yeah,
so
sick.
The feeling that you do have now, you can just go back, do a different equation, and then get a better feeling as a result.
Yeah, nice.
Like what sort of came up from our coaching session.
Yeah, I mentioned the same thing. Yeah, go for it, man. Like,
it was intense. So I had a memory of, so we did a breathing session and we got pretty deep, and he said, do you notice any feelings? And it was very strange for me, very different. I've never done anything like it. And then when we finally got down to it, I had a memory of being a little kid and running into my room and diving on my bed and crying. And I didn't know where to come from. And then next minute, I'm like crying at the top of the mound with him.
Yeah, sitting in the rain with this bro on his special space, which doesn't exist.
Yeah. yeah. And
yeah, man.
And then that kind of sparked a whole bunch of memories.
Sick.
And then ended up coming up with like this memory of, it only came through last night actually, of my mum accidentally or intentionally throwing a calculator at my sister's head.
Oh, wow.
And like, obviously it was in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
My parents had split up. My mum was working 2 jobs. Obviously something intense had happened in her day.
Yeah.
And she's yelling at us, we're only little, and then this calculator goes flying. And then I kind of was a little bit scared of my mum and saw her as a bit of a witch. But just because I'm only 3 and I don't know how to deal with the situation, I don't understand that my mum's stressed. I just don't know why this is happening. But then you go back into it now with an adult brain, you can reframe it, do your past math on it. Yeah, nice. And then as soon as I did that and was like, well, my mum was just probably really frustrated and we probably were being little assholes, you know? And you don't feel it when you're a kid, and then you hold on to that because you still see it from that perspective all the way through your life. Yep. But then you can come back with the adult brain, reframe it, and then it's unlocked so many memories. I couldn't remember my first bird, and like a whole bunch of funny things that have
First bird.
So I've had 2 birds called Squawk.
I was like, where are we going here, you know? Actual birds
actual
with feathers.
Parrot with feathers, and it could talk, and I love making friends with birds, but it's pretty funny.
This guy.
When I was little, and I just forgotten quite a lot of memories, and now I can walk around our old house from that time and a whole bunch of things, and my memories are unlocked, like, I don't know, just a whole trove of awesome memories of like making little pastry cutout fish for like making fish like things in the oven for dinner that I'd kind of forgotten about, and a whole bunch of little things just kept slaying in. And that was all just last night actually.
Yeah, wow.
So I was in some hot sweats in bed going, oh my God.
Yeah, cool. It's like, what, like, was it not pleasant or?
No, it was good. Okay. It was hot sweats because my brain was just in overload, because it's like, as soon as I reframed that one moment, then it kind of made me just go like, well, I suppose everything else could be reframed like that. And so it just,
100%.
I didn't have to bring up everything and go through it. I just understand that some of the stuff that I was stressed about when I was younger is probably nothing if you go back to it with your adult brain.
Totally.
And so it just allowed me to feel a lot calmer and really good. And I didn't even know that stuff was there. I thought we were going to have trouble finding childhood trauma.
We had a bit of trouble.
It was good.
Yeah, no, it was great.
Yeah.
It was good. It was testing me because I was like, okay, Nick's done a lot of work, you know.
Yeah.
Normally people come to me with an issue, right? Like, oh, I'm having an issue with my wife or work or whatever. but like I asked you, hey, do you want to come and see what it's like as I'm coaching, so we could talk about it, so you can experience it. And you do a lot of ice bars and a lot of breath work. Yeah. But it was cool. You did really well.
Yeah, that was awesome and totally unexpected.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can recommend.
Yeah.
Do you agree that when you react poorly to something, that's because there's a trauma from your past that you haven't touched on?
Yep. Pretty much.
Because don't call me that, or someone cuts you off, and the way you react is generally something's happened to you that you're
so I'd call that triggering. You're being triggered. For years I saw this, trigger warning, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what the heck is this? And then my wife said something, and I was like, I was calm 2 minutes ago. Why am I why is my heart rate going? I'm sweating because you're having a reaction to the original thing, not what your wife said or your boss said or whatever. So what I do with guys usually is we go back and we kind of dig into that, and we go back to the original feeling. So stuff that you were talking about wasn't actually about the now. It was about going back. And with most of the guys that I meet with, I check in with the body. I can go through the process if you want. But we check in with the body, and then maybe I should just go through what I do.
Go for it.
So I use a method called the RAIN method. So it's by I don't know what she is, teacher, Tara Brach, but it stands for Recognize, Accept, Investigate, Nurture. So it's a way of feeling embodied sense of emotion. So that was new to you. And most people, we store stuff that our body doesn't want to deal with at the time. Because when you were 2 or 4, that was too much to go, oh, well, mum's had a busy day and, blah, blah, blah. You go back to lizard brain and you cry and go to bed, right? And then you store it because you're not willing or ready to deal with it. So what I do in my sessions, generally, they're an hour session, and we walk on the beach, usually Papamoa Hills, the Mount, or the beach, and we move our body because it's great for guys to walk and talk, so we have a bit of a catch-up. But unlike a counsellor, you don't actually need to tell me what's going on. I don't need to know about the fight you had with your boss. I just get you to calm your body and mind, and using a bit of meditation, a bit of grounding, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, that kind of stuff. And that calms your body, calms your nervous system. And then from there we do a body scan, which is simply just kind of working through all your body parts, breathing into each one, wiggling, okay. And then what do you feel in your body? What do you actually feel? And usually for some people, it feels like a tightness, or a pain, or a kind of, I don't want to go there, or a shadow. And then we can either put emotions to it. What are 5 emotions you feel around that? If you've never named emotions, or you don't have a dictionary in your head,
that was difficult.
It's a lot. There's quite a lot. I use an emotions wheel. It was hissing down with rain.
That was actually so cool.
Yeah, this happens a lot now because I'm like, I always just bring a raincoat. But we'd been for a run up the mount, and it just started persisting down. So I was like, leave my phone in my pocket. I hope it doesn't die. But I usually have an emotions list, or emotions wheel, and then I say, hey, pick out 5. Usually happy, angry, sad is what people can name. There's like 150. And the last 2 are usually good. Yeah, I'm pissed off. I'm angry. Oh, I'm actually hurt. I feel lonely and sad. Okay, talking about those. Then we dig into what is the kind of the biggest emotion or feeling that you have. And so we do that at recognize. Okay, so where are you feeling that in your body? And it's less about, oh, this is stuff with my dad or whatever. It's more like, okay, I can see a shadow here. It's less cognitive and more felt, which enables you to kind of process through it.
So this may sound very strange for anyone listening that goes into it. And I found it strange because I've not done anything like this, moving into it. And then as we're going through the motions, I remember I was closing my eyes and I was trying to trigger feel where anything was being stored. And I was like, can't feel anything. I don't know. And I was like, I don't know, I'm slightly hungry, but I'm fasted. So, and then I didn't know how to check in.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I had like this like tight feeling in my throat, and I was like, well, maybe that's just because we've been breathing in and out lots. And then it ended up coming out like a whole story about how, I felt like I was always in trouble as a kid from being myself because I never knew what I actually did wrong. I was just operating, being a maniac probably.
You were also 4, 2.
Well, I'm about to have my second child, and I'm probably undiagnosed ADD, so I'm about to fall into your hole. So hopefully I don't go there.
Yeah, you're pretty full on.
Yeah.
Your brain probably works faster than mine. I'm on meds today, so who knows.
Oh, yeah. So you're on calming meds, or?
Well, they're a stimulant. So, they're a stimulant, but weirdly enough, if you don't have enough dopamine, it ramps your dopamine up, and then your brain goes, right? Well, my daughter, she's probably looking like being a bit sparkly as well. If I want her to tidy her room, I put on like Every Time We Touch by Casada, like, and she loves it. It's like hard trance for a 4-year-old. But happy brain calms you, right?
Yeah.
Fast driving, same thing. Brain goes, right? So all those bogans that are thrashing Metallica, I'm like,
Funny you say that, because whenever I need to, because I do in finance, so I'm looking at spreadsheets and numbers, I'm like, right, I need like an hour of focus work. It's always like a dance playlist, headphones in, cut out the word, and I'm just like, get through it all.
I've always said it took up enough of my brain that the little bit that still works can work. I think now it's different, but dopamine is there for everyone, and we all use it. It's just people with ADHD, instead of having a bowl or a cup of dopamine that you kind of drink out of throughout the day, it's like we've got a sieve, and it just like, cool, you get 10 units of dopamine and on the floor, and you're like, oh shit, how am I supposed to concentrate on maths? So you look out the window at something shiny. Anyway, we'll go back.
Sorry, just quickly, the point that I was trying to make there is, no matter how strange that this sounds when you're listening to it right now, it's different when you experience it with Rick, and you're sitting there, and it may take time for anything to even happen, but when it does happen, like I remember going to bed that night and like thinking, I had a very, very vivid vision as I was going to bed that night.
Epic.
And like random memories have been flashing back ever since we did that random breathing session. Cool. And I haven't had those flashbacks before this, and I'm pretty aware of what my thoughts are doing. And they're all fresh, nice new thoughts that are actually working for me.
Cool.
Like I feel more energy and more excitement, and I'm going to the lake with my mum this weekend, so I'm going to give her a big hug and say, sorry, I misinterpreted you being a witch. Or whatever,
She's like, what are you
I obviously won't word it like that.
She's like, I am!
I'm literally riding a broom right now.
Anyway, so just keep an open mind, and it's good. So
the stuff like for me, like I've tested this myself, and I've done it on myself at the beach listening to a guided meditation, and then I'm like, oh, this stuff works. Like I'm like, I don't love the woo-woo, Ouija board stuff. Like this is real stuff that has helped and changed my life. So we recognize the emotion or the feeling in the body, and then the allow part is something that people aren't used to. So that is literally allowing the emotion to exist without trying to change it, without trying to run away, without reaching for a beer, without trying to do a line. Like we all have these coping mechanisms to run away from our scary shit. And it's funny, as guys, we're like, I'm, making millions of dollars and whatever. I'm not, but some people are. I think you are.
Wouldn't say millions.
But like we're super high functioning, but then when the rubber hits the road, we're just scared little boys, and we weren't treated with enough love and kindness because our parents didn't know what the heck was going on. So we sit through it, and so you breathe into each emotion. So okay, I'm feeling sad. Cool. What does that feel like? And this is horrible the first time we do it. The first time I did it, I was driving back from Hamilton, spent the weekend with my dad. Awkward if he listens to this. And super triggered, he was never emotionally available for me. And so I'm like, cool, let's try the sitting with emotion thing. And I'm like, this is crap. And I've just got through the first one. So you sit with the emotions, and it's cool in a coaching space because I can support you with that, And if you do lose a plot, then you look out at the ocean or whatever. And then you go investigate. Cool, where does this come from, right? And so usually what happens is, okay, you're stressed about work. Okay, cool. Where do you feel that in your body? Oh, I feel it up here. Okay. When have you felt that before? 9 times out of 10. Oh, when I was a kid. And it's like, come on, are you stupid? Like, do you not know this? Oh, when I was a kid. Okay. How old are you? Picture yourself. And you were like, boom, I'm in bed, I'm crying, I've been sent to my room. And I'm like, people know this stuff. I'm like, how old are you? What are you wearing? Another client, he was like, I'm sitting at the dinner table. I've been given a certificate at school because I did awesome. And my dad said, you can get 2 next time. He's 7.
Yeah.
So then we dig into that. And usually we go into some reparenting. So that's literally, you're a dad, you're about to be a second dad. Second dad sounds weird. And I said, show up with all the love that you have for Gus. It is Gus, eh?
Yeah.
Show up with all the love that you have for Gus, but to yourself when you're 2 or 4.
Yeah, this was where it got even better.
It's pretty wild. Eh? You've got kids, right?
No.
Yeah. So if you don't have kids, the love and like nothing my daughter could do would like make me love her less. And if you can show up with that love and kindness for yourself, for your younger self, you show up with everything that you guys know about life and the world, and you show up to the younger self and tell them what they need to hear. And ultimately, you kind of know what you need to hear. Usually it's you're like, nah. For me, I need to hear, I'm proud of you. You're doing a good job. You're enough. That's me. Nice tightness in the chest, a little bit of flush in the face around there. But we all know what we need to hear. So reparenting is literally going back and telling that younger version of Nick what he needs to hear in the time. And then reframe your whole life from then. It's like
Moving
a defrag
forwards, do the past math.
Based on that, right? And then the nurture side's really cool. So if you go to a counsellor, you spill your guts, you feel like shit, and they go, oh, time's up. Cool, next week, that's another $180. And you go, cool, I've just re-traumatized myself. I've been really bold and vulnerable, which most people don't even get to that stage, and then time's up. But I make it really important that we complete the cycle. So the nurture side is, what does this vulnerable part of you need? So reparenting, that kind of thing. Maybe it's sitting in the rain, really healing, really grounding. For me, it's usually kind of, I imagine open up my chest and letting the sun just filter in, right? That, like, you know, when you're at the beach and you're not getting burnt, but it's like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Maybe it's a kind word from your spouse or your mum or your grandma or who knows, right? A spiritual entity, or a word to yourself. You are enough. I see you. I love you. I'm proud of you. And then you start having that self-compassion for yourself, which is, again, super weird. Like, I'm not saying the stuff is easy or natural, but I'm hoping you came away from the session being like, I've got me, right?
Yeah, definitely. I came away from the session, to be honest, I had a busy ass day after that, so I didn't really think about it.
You came in flying and you went out flying?
Yeah. And then I had like a 7-hour, it was Friday, and I had a 7-hour stint with a marketing guy between like 3 and nearly 10 o'clock at night. And then I didn't get to bed till nearly 11. And then it wasn't until I like hit the pillow, and then it was just kind of the memory of like hitting the pillow because that was the example that we got to. And then as I was just like almost like my pillow there, and I'm just visualizing everything as I hit the pillow, and then that was when it really hit, and I felt good about what I'd done, and a bunch. That's when the memory started.
Nice.
And pretty much every night since then, it's been pretty loose.
Yeah, sweet.
Like last night's was the most memories came back, but and that's nearly a week later.
Wow.
So just old memories. It's almost like it was a little unlock that I didn't even know that I needed. Because thinking about it, why is my mum throwing a calculator at anything to do with anything? Because you kind of think like, it doesn't matter. It's on the big picture, that's nothing. But for some reason, when you're young, it like almost puts like a little block in your brain, and you can't pass it unless you undo the block, and you don't even know it's there, and you just carry on life, and you're like, nah, there's nothing I need to worry about. And then even if you got told about that scenario from like an uncle or your sister or something saying, oh, I remember that time Mum threw the calculator, you'd probably think, oh, well, what does that have to do with anything? But for me, that was the memory that came up, and that was what I worked through, and it was pretty freaking loose.
Like trauma is not what happened, right? Like a car could fly in through the window, and 3 of us here, you see a lot of cars, you probably see a few accidents, you're probably like, cool. I might lose the plot because a family member got hit by a car or whatever, right? Like trauma is not the thing that happened, it's how you react to it. Yeah. So if for you as a kid, your mum flying off the handle and throwing a calculator was too much, and your brain went, freak out, I'm going to make a story about that, you know, and then you're like, oh, I can't deal with this because I have no skills at 4. I'm going to put that away. Now.
Yeah, and then you come back to it as an adult.
And you'll find a lot of the stuff comes up as you become a parent, right? Because you're like, I don't know, you just parent default what you grew up with, and then you're like, hold on, I don't want to be the same parents as my parents. And then you start thinking, well, what do I want to be? What did they do? How did they discipline me? So it's like having kids is a lot. Your kids are older, right?
Yeah. So my son's 14, blended family, and then we've got 18 and 22. Yeah. Dealing with adults is pretty challenging too, though, right? Like,
but you're probably now dealing with stuff of how you were dealt with as a teenager,
So I've grown a lot, and I've talked about this on the podcast many times too, is that when we grew up, it was more of the sit down and don't talk unless you're spoken to. News is on. That was their one source of truth, as Jacinda would like to preach.
Awesome.
So that was their window of anything happening in the world, and that's all they knew is to be gospel.
Yeah.
Now we live in an information age where there's so much information, we've got to take what's right. But because there's so much information, we can learn that there's actually other ways of parenting, that you can be more open, that you can do this.
Totally.
So the kids actually know this before the parents do. Like, you can't talk to me like that. And so as soon as they say you can't talk, you're in my fucking house. You'll do exactly what I tell you to. Right. So that's triggering again. Like, hang on a minute. I always did what I was told to. You do what I'm telling you to do. And it takes a bit to rewire that. And hey, look, I was guilty of it. I'm only just probably coming right now.
Yeah.
You know, but it's your kids know it before you.
Yeah.
Because they're full of TikTok and everything. Like, they're just consuming content consistently.
Which is either good or bad. Who knows?
Terrible.
We'll survive. We survived cars and the internet. I think we'll be okay. But yeah, you learn a lot, right? And even thinking about having a second kid, and it's wild. So that's generally what I do in a coaching session. I've got these retreats coming up. I just had my first one, and they've been really, really cool. So it's a men's mindfulness retreat. Next one's 22nd of March. So we had our first one. It's out in Katikati. So it's like a full day Friday, half day Saturday, designed for guys who are busy and mostly with family. You take a day off work, wife doesn't mind because you're at work anyway, and then half day Saturday you kind of come back and then relieve her. And goal one of the retreat is get everyone calm. Can you do grounding? Can you get into a meditative state in 5 minutes of box breathing or breath work, whatever you have to do to down-regulate your nervous system? This was interesting with you. You do a lot of breath work, but you upregulate your nervous system. So ice bath, huge endorphins, huge dopamine, right? Spike, heart rate going through the roof. It's a survival mechanism. You're like, you feel really good because your body's like, I survived, I didn't die. And then you crank on that for half a day, you know, and I love it. But what we do with meditation and mindfulness is actually lower your heart rate and bring it down. And that was step one for you.
Yeah. I'd never done any ramp downs. I
was
only on the ramp up.
Yeah, I've got a long way to come down too. So I was meant to also do one of these, but because my life's so hectic, I couldn't find the time as to where to do it.
will now.
And I feel like I'm missing out still. And I'm like, I'd really like to do this, but when can I fit it in? Maybe like 2 weeks.
So my thing has been, okay, how do I make mindfulness and meditation not scary? Because it's not sitting, you know, hovering off the ground with your arms and legs folded.
That would be impressive.
I know, I'm keen. I'm keen to do some tumo and melt some snow, you know, like the monks in Tibet. Yeah. They're literally like changing their body temp. I changed mine the other day a little bit. I was biking home from the mountain. I was freezing. I was like, well, I'm freezing. I'm going to do some breath. I got a bit lightheaded on the e-bike and I was like, okay. But how do you do this? Busy guy. Driving is good. Put a track on, go on the radio, cycle through till you find a song you either don't like or you don't know, or not something you vibe on, and then do some mindfulness around it. So, okay, what music parts can I pull out? Okay, I'm going to pull out the synth, the drum, the shaker, the vocals, the bass, pull out all the things, then go back. Might take you 3 or 4 minutes to do that, and you actually have to be conscious about it, and then go back and think, okay, how does the synth make me feel? Is it rising? Is it falling? How does it make me feel in your body? This is your homework, Nick. And then do I enjoy it? I did one to a Drake song. I'm not a Drake fan. And I had to work really hard to be like, okay, what can I like about it? Okay, I could see that someone else might enjoy his voice. I think it's infuriating. But mindfulness and meditation is not about doing a set thing. It's actually changing a network in the brain. So it's taking your brain from default mode network, which is how we do autopilot.
Yeah. Right.
When your brain's not on a really intense cognitive task, it just goes default. And funnily enough, that's all inward focused, which leads to anxiety, depression, blah, blah, blah. Meditation is about moving out of default mode network and usually into task mode network, counting. I teach 5-minute box breathing on your fingers. Breathe in for 4. Hold for 4. Counting is, you know, people are, I don't want to count. I'm like, okay, but it's really easy to keep focused. Going back to the song, the song's 3 or 4 minutes, but it'll keep your brain busy enough and you'll find that you're a lot calmer. I was driving to a meeting and I was late and I was driving fast and I didn't have time to like do box breathing beforehand. I wanted to be real chill when I got there. So I was like, okay, this is what I can do. And I put like Junip on by Jose Gonzalez. Epic epic song and it's real diverse and blah, blah. But you can do this with any song and do it with classical music. It's really cool. But you can do it when you're driving.
So you got to try separate out all the noises.
You're just trying to keep your brain busy.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, this is something I've created because it seems to work for quite a lot of people. But pull out all the songs, pull out all the little aspects, and then go back if you have enough time. If that keeps you busy for 5 minutes, sweet, you know.
That's basically the same thing as when you're doing yoga or breathing. It's like focusing the breath in, focusing the breath out. If it's okay if you get distracted, but bring it back to feeling the breath coming in, feeling the breath coming out. It's another way of doing that.
So it's just, it's keeping your brain busy. So I'm really fascinated with how to make mindfulness meditation more applicable to everyday people, especially guys. I think I started researching the other day before this and I went down a major rabbit hole. I was trying to look for, have they tested guys' brains when they're fishing to see if it's the same, getting out of default mode network, getting into task mode network? Because I reckon it'll be about the same. Even the pub, right? You go to the pub, you're surrounded by people with mates. You won't be thinking about, blah, 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 blah. You were thinking about whatever you're talking about, right? So if it's about keeping your brain busy, then a lot of activities work, right? A conscious run.
Everyone that goes mountain biking, motocross, you can't focus on anything else when there's trees flying around you, or and it's like, it's so calming. And then afterwards, all you want to talk about is the mountain bike ride you've just been on. Bro, remember that time when I slid down that corner and broke my elbow? Oh, yeah.
And you move your body and you get dopamine and endorphins from that, right?
I think one golden nugget of what you've just said there is you separated out the songs in the Drake song that you didn't really like.
Yeah, I hated it.
And then you're like, what could someone like about this song?
Yeah.
And you got yourself into the mode.
Yeah, so mindfulness is non-judgmental awareness, right? So it's, that on-air sign is a little bit too bright for my eyes. Okay, cool. It's just
look to your left then.
There's a light hum that I can hear from the air conditioning, right? Yeah. It's actually zooming out. It's keeping your brain busy. Yeah. I was following behind a Daihatsu Charade. They closed the road to Raglan a while back, and it was like this little tiny rusty thing, and it was going 40k an hour. I was late for a meeting because poor time management, and I was like, and I was about to fly my drone for a job, and I thought, okay, what would happen if I zoom out here? So I zoomed out to like 10 meters on the drone, and then 20 meters, and I was like, okay, the Daihatsu Charade's not pissing me off as much. And I was like, cool. Drone height is 120 meters legally in New Zealand. So I was like, let's go up to 120 meters. And I was like, Daihatsu Charade's pretty small. My car's pretty small. I was like, cool, go Google Earth, zoom out, right? I'm like, the Daihatsu Charade and the fact that I'm going to be 10 minutes late for my thing, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Because you're this small, right? So perspective. And for me, mindfulness meditation has definitely done that, right? You sit in front of an ocean, great big old ocean. Studies have shown that an ocean or a tree or even a god, if you believe in that, has really good for our mental health because it makes us feel small. It makes us like, you can't be like, I'm so stressed out about my budget when you're like, the ocean doesn't stop and it's there all the time.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do with, I call it zoom out as well.
Yeah, me.
But I memorize because I love space and stuff. I think I'm one of 7 billion smart monkeys on a planet traveling 96,000 kilometers an hour around a sun, which is in a sea of suns called a galaxy. And then you can go back and then it's like, how much does it matter that I'm waiting in this line at the post shop? Or how much does it matter? Because that could be nagged. You get there and you're like, so many people and this is the only time I've got to go.
Yeah.
And then you can zoom back out and go, I'm one of 7 billion smart monkeys on the crust of a planet.
Yeah.
And then that's the zoom out for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also with that gratitude one thing I've really liked to do with spotting the joy, when I go to a restaurant with a friend, instead of actually looking at the menu or stopping to do all of that, I just order whatever the person I'm with orders. And then my first discussion is around, and I try to find what they liked in the meal.
Nice.
And then my first discussion's around why they chose what they chose. And then that just starts the conversation. I don't have to stop to look at the menu. I never look at the menu.
Love it.
If I'm with someone, I just order what they're ordering.
I like it. It's a bit creepy, but still correct.
A little bit creepy. Nah, it's good. Most people like it. Yeah. But that has,
that's cool.
Because then you start looking for what someone else would like in that food.
Yeah.
And then even if, you pick something random off the menu, there's a reason it's on the menu, So when it comes out, like instead of thinking, my steak's not perfect or, this isn't right, it's like, what can I really enjoy in this meal? And put together some combos and just looking for those things, you end up developing a skill of finding them.
Totally.
And then they just start jumping out at you all the time.
If you start looking, right?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was calling it calm hunting for a while, but if you say that fast, it's not ideal. Kenrick Smith with his new technique, okay, calm hunting, cool. So I call it joy hunting now.
Yeah.
I was with my daughter on the bike. She started school and she's having a bit of a time, and she's a lot of emotions. I said, okay, and we like to go for a bike ride because I'm calm and she's calm. Everybody wins instead of like everyone's trying to burn stuff down. And I said, what can you find that brings you joy? She's like, the path's got a nice curve on it, And like, there's a lot of stuff in this world for me. If you really focus and just slow down, like life is full, man, and awesome. But if you're always looking for more, you're never going to find it. Yeah. It's always going to lead to unhappiness.
The best way to slow down is just keep your phone at home. Go out without it. They say anyone that, say you're on holiday and you lose your phone and you're in a different country and you can't do anything about it. Like the first day is like panic and stress and anxiety. Yeah. And then they just go, yeah. I'm like, I'll just get up and go for a walk down the beach. And you start grounding yourself.
Time slows down.
Yeah. But
I did it on.
I've got getting better at not looking at my phone in the morning.
Yeah.
Get up, do my workout, leave it on silent. I've been coming to work at like 9. Oh, it's still on silent. Oh shit! Look at all this stuff on there. But I'm so much better for it because I've gone for a walk. I've done this. The amount of times because I finance say heavy trucks and stuff. I'll pick up my phone. I've got missed calls from 2 a.m. in the morning. So one of my customers has rolled their trucks and they're like, "What do I do? The money guy will fix it." I'm not the insurance company. Ring them. But so it starts your day rough because you start whatever you do in the morning will set up your day.
Yeah.
So just leave that alone and be there for yourself. Fill your own bucket.
Yeah.
Or watch a ramp up video. Hey.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know a guy?
Yeah, I know a guy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Mine's out of date. Mine's a year old.
Okay. Nice. Update the goals.
Yeah, I love it.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I guess you've got these retreats coming up. What do you want to promote and where can people find you?
Yeah, totally. I'm really passionate about helping guys. Everyday guys just kind of be better. And it's not normally what they think. Some guys obviously come to me with a reason, like yourself. You had no idea that stuff was going on.
Yeah.
So the retreats are a really cool option. So they're $500 and they won't be more expensive than that. But I think it's about right. So it's a day and a half. I used to be a trained chef, so all the food is pretty top notch. And we have a sauna tent there. So as I was saying before we got sidetracked, but step one is, can you find your calm? And if you can't do that, then I help you one-on-one there. We've got myself and another breathwork coach, Jack. He's joined me up. And he's kind of taken that breathwork side so I can do some of the cooking. But that's step one. And then once you go into step two, which is actually self-inquiry, start using these techniques to go in and start, okay, so I came here because I want to be less stressed. Why are you stressed? Let's dig into that. And we did this rain method with 10 guys lying down in some grass in the bush. And it's really cool. Yeah. And then following on from that, they usually have coaching sessions to kind of dig in. Okay, so I had this block, and let's dig into that. But the retreats, I love more guys to turn up there. It's a really cool open space, and we finished the evening with sauna. So admission is jump in the cold river in Katikati. It's pretty fresh, and then and then we're into the sauna tent. It's like a 4-meter bell tent with a fire in the middle, like a stove, and it's pretty hot. And you're sitting next to another guy who's pretty sweaty, and then do that for 10 or 15. Have a yarn. It's pretty chill, and then jump in the river again, and you do that till you want to go to bed. And if you get to sit in the literal hot seat, it's like the closest one to the fire, and your legs are burning. But it's really cool, and it's a challenge. So the alcohol-free, drug-free event. So I wanted some form of personal challenge. So I say at the start, no macho bullshit. This is you against you. Yeah. No giving people stick if they're not staying in. If it's not about that, you can just leave now if you want. It's about you showing up for you and pushing as hard as you want. One guy was like, I'm keen to go to bed. I'm like, sweet man, have a good sleep. And you're knackered after like 3 or 4 rounds of sauna. You're like, in a busy day. And then we're back in the morning, have a coffee, and then we go into a breathwork journey. So 45 minutes of breathwork. So that's Jack. And it's sick. So that takes you through kind of down-regulating, up-regulating, and then kind of start digging into stuff. And usually if you've dug in stuff the previous day, then it kind of, you start working through that. Although one guy went to sleep, we like all finished. He's like, no, you can, you can stay in this meditative state. And we hear this. And we're like, hey, wake up. He's like, oh yeah, I always do that. But for me, that's his body saying, hey, I need some extra sleep. Your body will show you what it needs. And then we pack up and it's really cool. So it's a day and a half. And then the coaching, love to do that. Or if you need your logo, 40 meters wide in the sand, let me know, because that pays a lot better. So the coaching's less about making money for me and more about helping people. So I get a real buzz of like seeing like Nick's eyes sparkle when he's like, whoa, my inner world is wild, and that's one session in the rain,
Yeah.
So you do a couple of those and then you go, okay, well, this is the story about myself that I've told myself. What about that? Or failure or success or whatever. Like, hey, I think about my brother every time I don't get a job. Okay, let's dig into that. So, man. And
So with the coaching, obviously one session you can often get someone to break down, but how many lessons would someone...
I think like if you had a lot going on, like I'm not a trained counselor or a psychologist. So if you have major trauma, go and see someone else first. But I've found the guys said on the retreat like a couple times, they said this is better than any coaching, any counseling I've ever had. Because you just get to the stuff, I've tried it on my wife or my friends. I said, don't tell me what's going on. We'll just check in with your body. You tell me what you're feeling, because that saves half an hour of like, oh, and then he said this and then they did that. And right? It's like, it's wild. Like, I don't even need to know your stuff. It's like epic. And then we're just dealing with what's here. And I think there's a gentleness about it that only comes up what you're ready to actually deal with. And there's a line between that. You can push it harder with breath work and kind of activate your nervous system. But I think a couple sessions, like even one session, like if you learn some tools with me, listen to some podcasts and never come back, I've done a great job as a coach. Yeah, cool. So coaching is about helping you do the work for you. It's not like I'm not in this to have like, okay, let's meet together for the next 18 years. I'm like, you're not growing and changing if you're doing that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we figured out why Nick didn't like his job in finance, because he doesn't like flying calculators. With me, I'm yet to do a session, but I think we'll definitely try and get a session in, and I can follow it up on social media with what I've experienced.
Yeah, cool.
Once we can schedule this in.
Yeah, cool.
Stop making excuses and get it done.
Yeah, man. It's amazing. The freedom you feel from it is like, it's epic. And you'll be like, oh, even just breathing, like if you're not down regulating, then you'll be like, oh.
I know I'm a bad breather.
We can do that. We can do that off air, mate. Happy to help.
So where do people find you?
So my coaching is Yarns with Rick, at Yarns with Rick on Instagram. Cool. And my sander is at Rake Healing.
Okay.
And
at Brave Cold Club?
So funnily enough, that's how you found me, at Brave Cold Club. So that's just a little thing I started. I was going up the mount and going in the drink in the morning, and it was awesome in winter, and you kind of have to be brave. There's 2 hours in there. Yeah. So I started this thing just to meet like-minded people, like yourselves. And I kind of stopped it in summer because it's like it's not that cold. Yeah. But in the middle of winter, you go up there, get there at 6:30, still dark, and you jump in the drink. Everyone's like, "What the heck is this guy doing?" But you're flying. Then you're finished by 7:30, and then you're off to work. And I'm like, some of my best days I've had of like your hair's still wet, and you're just flying because you've done 5 minutes at the mount in the morning. And you're like, whew. But who knows? There's going to be running events and stuff. So what I'm seeing with the coaching is that guys are inherently, they don't have a crew. If you didn't grow up around here, who do you hang out with? If you don't surf and you didn't grow up in the mount, you're kind of like, who are my crew? So I'm looking at doing like hikes and that kind of stuff. So it's going to be real low impact. We're going to book a hut. We're all going to walk, and you're going to have a topic to talk about. Join up with a mate and share about a vulnerable time or whatever. Get out your dehydrated meal, put it over the stove, and then we're going to walk back, and you're going to be back at home, But it's good connection with other guys and good community. Watch that space. So
awesome. Let's keep in contact and all that stuff.
Yeah, awesome.
Nice. Come along to something.
Thanks, team. Really appreciate it. Thanks
for having me on here, man.
Yeah, cheers. Awesome.
Cheers.